Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. In this video, we're going to see if we can get the wheels painted on the ZXR750 and whatever else happens to come along. So stay tuned. So I'm continuing the process of stripping paint off everything that was painted black. So I've got most of the paint off these, a little bit more left to go, but by and large these are coming up quite nice. That's good. And then I'm starting to strip the chain guard, and then this is the right side foot peg, which I'm gonna just get the bulk of it off, but I am gonna disassemble this and then take everything apart just so I can get everything out of there. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. That one's coming clean. There's still a few spots here and there that are being a little stubborn, but that's okay. We'll get there in the end. It's all coming off. This stuff is not coming off with acetone though. So it seems to me that different parts of this bike were painted with different paint. So the entire frame was done with a rattle can. Some of this other stuff has been done with a 2K paint of some sort, because nothing brings it off except paint stripper. So definitely not the same paint. So with these foot pegs and hangers, when you take the bolt out that holds the peg and the shift lever, it's not a bad idea to heat that bolt up. A lot of times there's either some corrosion on there or some Loctite, so it just makes the whole process a whole lot easier if you hit that with even with a small butane torch like I did. It just makes the whole thing a lot easier to take off. So all set for the paint booth. The wheels have been primed, they've been rescuffed so they're ready for paint. I've got my paint supplies here, my gun and everything I need. I've got my regulator, the red paint, and then my fluid tips are in there, paint suit. I'm good to go. So we'll get after that very soon. Some of you may also have noticed that there's actually two sets of rear passenger foot peg hangers here, and the reason for that is I just happened to have an extra set that were kind of all scuffed up, so I figured I'd just paint them all at the same time. That's the only reason for that. So only one set of those is going to get used. The other set can go back in the spares box. So I've got most of this cleaned up. The shifter, the foot peg, and the heel guard or the shin guard, whatever you want to call it. Shin guard, I guess. This, although the paint's all been stripped off, it kind of shows that it's kind of in not great shape, a little bit rough. So I'm going to wet sand this with 800 and WD-40. And then polish it up, and then I'm going to clear coat it. That should get it back to looking the way that it needs to look. The process of getting these things ready for clear coat is very, very simple. Hard to do with one hand, but someone's got to hold the camera. 800 wet with WD-40 until I get all the necessary blemishes out, which is really just pitting from corrosion and whatnot. And then wipe it off, hit it with some brake cleaner to degrease it, and then metal polish, and then degrease it again, and then clear coat. So it's getting there. It's still some pitting on the end here, so I'll take another run at that. But so I just use Autosol metal polish. I prefer these cream style metal polishes. They just seem to work that much better. They got a little bit of abrasion in them, and yeah, Mothers makes them, Eagle One makes one. You can get them anywhere. It doesn't matter which one you use, in my opinion, but this is just the one that I find most readily available. You just give it a good rubbing until it all goes black, and then you buff it off. All right, so obviously there's two of these that have to be done, but I haven't taken the other one apart yet. This one was just kind of there and easy to get at. So the other one will get done the same way. I probably won't even bother showing you that since I'm showing you the process for this one. But it's, and again, I'm just using a 2K clear. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm using a 1K clear. That's fine. I've never had any issues with this stuff. If you have 2K, that would probably be even better, but I've never had an issue. And then just give it a quick warming with the hair dryer, or the heat gun, I should say. So this is the, I said I wasn't going to show you me doing the other side, but here it is. Just to demonstrate what a slow, messy, and painstaking process this is. I've got the lever almost cleared up, and the rear masters cleaned up. Got the foot peg cleaned up. It needs a bit more paints off it, but it hasn't been kind of polished up yet. And now I'm just doing the shin guard here, the ankle guard. It's took the first coat off. This looks like it has silver paint underneath it as well, but what a mess. Golly. And there's so many parts like this to do.
All right, back in the shop. Yeah, it's been about a week since I've been out here, and I will apologize now for the sound of my voice. Just getting over a cold. So break time. I'm going to try to avoid too much replication from the previous video where I did the brakes on the ZX7. These ones, as you can see, have all been painted with black paint. It is rattle can paint, so fortunately this is one that I've cleaned off with acetone already. Haven't taken anything apart yet, but they are coming clean with acetone, so that's a good thing. So my hope is I can just keep this gold finish and I won't have to paint them if they're in decent shape. I think what I'm going to do though is I am going to take them completely apart. So the pads will come out. These pads actually look quite good, but I have new ones to go in there. And I'm going to try compressed air first through the banjo bolt hole, see if I can pop those pistons as far out as I can. And if not, I'm going to have to connect up the master cylinders again and work these out a little bit at a time. So unfortunately, the pistons in these, as you may recall from the other video, the pistons have a wooden block in the end. So you can't use the internal brake caliper piston removal tools on these. So you basically have to pump them out as far as you can, and then carefully like wrap something around the piston or wrap something around the teeth on a pair of pliers and work them out that way, or use a shop rag so you don't mar the pistons at all. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean all these up and get them apart. They're going to go in the ultrasonic cleaner. There's going to be all new seals go in here, and they should be as good as new. Most of the black paint is off, so the rest of that stuff I'll be able to get off once they're apart a little bit more. And yeah, so I guess I'll start disassembling and see if I can get these pistons moved out of here. So I used compressed air. This one almost came all the way out. I had to kind of push it back in a little bit. And then this one, I could access the back of that piston through the banjo bolt hole, and then just use this punch to push it out. So those ones should come out fairly easy once I split the caliper. I did previously crack these off with a breaker bar, so that's why they looks like they're so easy to remove. So there we have it, split. There's the O-ring that allows the brake fluid to pass from one side of the caliper to the other. And these are the wooden pucks. So if these weren't in there, I think actually they may even be solid in behind there. It's just like a little wooden veneer that's on the top. And oh, so as I was saying, these things I've now got to get out with a pair of pliers. I'll wrap some tape and whatnot around the pliers so that the jaws don't damage the pistons. You don't want to score them up or anything. And then I'll see if I can shuffle these guys out. So that worked just fine. So you can see why it's worthwhile taking these things apart and putting new seals in. It's you get this kind of like, I mean, these ones aren't too bad, but on a lot of pistons you kind of get this, looks like crystallized honey in the bottom. All the contamination and the brake fluid that absorbs water over time and whatnot. So yeah, those were fairly easy to take apart. I suspect that the front calipers are not going to cooperate as easily to get the pistons out. Right, I don't know if you could see this very easily or not. Hang on a second here, let me just turn an air compressor off for a sec here. All right, I don't know if you can see this very easily, but here's how I've been easing pistons out. So typically when I stick two of the brake pads in here as they would normally be in the caliper, so kind of sitting this way, and then I apply the compressed air. I've got one of these fittings on my little air gun thing here that just fits right in there like that. And then typically what I'm finding is that one piston will come out, maybe two, and then the other ones just won't move, and that's just kind of the way that it goes. You're never going to get all four to move at the same pace. So then once I've got them to move out to some degree, then you kind of got to find a way to block them and stop them from coming out any further. So typically what I've been able to do is use one or two of the brake pads kind of jammed in there, and in this case I've got a C-clamp holding this brake pad to stop this one coming out. And that allowed me to get the compressed air in again and move the back one out to meet the pad. And then the other thing that started to happen is once this one came out, this one started to move until the edge of it hit the pad here. So that stopped that one, and then this one started coming out. So you just kind of have to jerry-rig everything just so you can kind of get them out one at a time. That's kind of what I've been doing. I haven't found a better way to do it yet, but this is what's been working for me, just to rig stuff up. So now that these are out, I'll say halfway, I'll split the caliper and then use the pliers with the tape on the jaws to wiggle those pistons out. So if you ever wondered whether it was really necessary to pull the pistons out, that's the goo that has to come out, and you can bleed brakes till you're blue in the face. You're not going to get rid of all of that sort of stuff, so nasty. So these are the front calipers. As I mentioned, these tend to be a little trickier to get all of the pistons out. So I just used some alternating shims to just to keep. Oh, for goodness sakes! As I was saying, I used some cedar shims in here just to keep the pistons from completely popping out. And then what that's done for me is that's kind of how far I've been able to get them out. So these guys on this side will come out really, really easy. These ones are going to be a bit trickier. So what I've devised to get them out is to use air pressure when I separate these. Obviously it becomes much more difficult because, so I'll get these separated here for a second. I'll show you what I mean. This one-handed stuff is for the birds. Okay. Okay, those guys are going to come out pretty easy. Not worried about those. So the hard part is getting these guys out all the way now. And because you've got two of these transfer ports here. This is what allows the fluid to go from this side, which is where you have your banjo bolt, into this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys out, and then I've got this little piece of rubber that I've cut from an old inner tube, which will fit right in there like that. And then basically what you can do is you can just attach this like that, which basically blocks that air port off. It'd be nice if I could just use a clamp on there, but there's no way to get the clamp to stay on. So why not just use the other half of the caliper? And then you can hit this side with the air line, and that'll force these out. Now, if you don't want them to go flying across the room, which you don't, or take your eye out, it's not a bad idea to use a C-clamp just to kind of, just loosely on here, and you just kind of edge them out a bit at a time. Clamp on the other one a little tighter so it can't move, and then you can just kind of go back and forth until you get them out as far as you can, and then they're easy to wiggle out after that. So that's the plan. All right, so that's about as clean as I can get them before they go in the ultrasonic cleaner. Just used brake cleaner and some stuff called Grease Off, which is a product by Spray 9. So they're you know, they're okay, but the reality is they won't really come clean enough until I put them in the ultrasonic cleaner. So that's where they're going to go next. All right, we're going to pop these in the ultrasonic cleaner for half an hour, and then that should do the trick. All right, see what we got cooking. You can tell by the color of the water that a lot of crap has come off, so that's good. Looks a lot better. So everything's out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Looks all nice and shiny and clean. And so I'm going to do the caliper rebuild kits now. So this is a brake crafter's kit. It comes with the seals and the dust boots, some rubber grease, some new bleed nipples and caps, and crush washers, and then the O-ring for the transfer port, which goes right here between the two halves. And the front caliper kit is an all balls kit. So used this one last time, and actually twice I've used this for Kawasaki's, and they seem to all be quite good. For some reason I haven't been able to find an all balls kit for the rear, which is why I went with the brake crafters. So alright, so I'm just going to show you what I do with the rear calipers. So the first seal is in, and then I've pushed the piston in, but I haven't fully seated it yet. This one is now fully seated, but I find that these dust boots are easier to put on. So put the piston in so it's almost all the way in, but not quite, and it just kind of allows you to get the lip of that seal into the piston a whole lot easier. Okay, so that's what it looks like with the dust seal just on the piston. So this is not yet seated around here. So the next thing I'm going to do is once that's on now, I'm going to push that piston in a little bit more. Just makes it a bit easier to put this on, and then you've got to basically work this over. I use a like a hook pick type thing. I would say that you can use this, but you got to be super careful because you don't want to puncture it with that. So I use it. I've never had an issue, but if you're not careful, you could absolutely puncture this. I do have a set of plastic picks, but I find them to be a little too flexible. So the only thing I've had good success with is one of these things. And as I've said, if you're careful, it'll be fine. But you certainly don't want to be piercing the boot with the point of that thing. So this one's not super sharp, so it's not too bad. All right, so there is the rear caliper kind of redone. This is the banjo bolt just kind of loosely in there for now with the new 2 crush washers. The Caltrick kit does not come with new pins, and it does not come with new clips, so the old ones have to go back in. I did clean them off on the wire wheel. So put a bit of copper grease on there, and they should be good to go. So that's the rear one done. Just got to put this cap back on here, and that figure which way around that goes, that will go back on. maybe that way, or maybe this way. This way. There we go. Oh, I've forgotten to put these clips in here for the pad, so I have to take it apart again. But no big deal. They are back in. All right, so there is the front calipers with the new seals, new dust seals, and the pistons are installed, pushed all the way back to make the bleeding process easier. I say easier, as I've said already. I find the bleeding process on front brakes to be a huge pain in the neck, but we'll deal with that at a later date in another video. So now we're going to start to reassemble these. I've got new O-rings to go in here. There's new pins. There's new clips. There's new crush washers. Interestingly, this kit doesn't come with new bleed nipples. The other one did, but this one comes with new pins and new clips. So yeah, different kits come with different things. All right, front calipers are almost done. New pads, new pins, new crush washers. I cleaned up all the hardware on the brass wheel. I have on the grinder there, and so yeah, I'm just gonna clean these covers up, and we're gonna get those screwed back on. And typically, I end up keeping all this stuff because it's kind of good to have these things just kind of kicking around as spares, because you never know when you're gonna need one. I don't keep the seals, I don't keep the pads, but some of this other stuff, like this kind of thing, I mean, oftentimes you'll come across a bike that's got that stuff missing, or I just don't throw them away. So yeah, I'm gonna keep some of that stuff, pads and seals and whatnot will get chucked out. All right, so more of the awful stripping process. Here's another example of stuff that was painted in a 2K paint. This is not rattle can stuff. It does not come off with acetone. So triple clamps have to get cleaned off. All the nuts, the bolts, everything's got to get cleaned. So I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to come back once it's all cleaned off and you can see what it looks like. I won't subject you to watching me strip paint. There's all the paint gone, so it's looking better. So now I'm going to refinish the top clamp here the same way as usual. Scotch-Brite followed by 800 with WD-40. Clean it all off with brake clean, and then clear coat it. So this is an OEM rear fender, which is quite rare, and unfortunately, like everything else, somebody's painted it with a 2K paint, so it doesn't come off with acetone. So I'm just doing a little test spot here to see if I can get this paint off without damaging the plastic underneath, because I'd like to get it back to the original plastic and just clean it without having to paint it again. So it looks good. Obviously don't want to leave it on too long and risk it eating into the plastic, but yeah, it does bring it off. You can still see the original paint in the corners here, but just being cautious and making sure that the chemical doesn't damage the plastic, which it doesn't seem to, which is good. So basically that means I can take all these grommets out, take the license plate mount off, take these grommets out, and I can strip this thing and probably get it back to close to good as new. Unfortunately, you know, I might try to plastic weld some of these, we'll see. These have been some self-tapping screws we'll put in there for probably somebody trying to hold on one of those crappy aftermarket turn signals. All right, so we got 99.999% of the paint off so far. Just gonna have to go around now and just kind of pick off any of the last little spots that are there, and then we'll give it a shot with some plastic cleaner, and I'll consider that to be almost saved once I fill in these little holes here. So looks much better. All right, so there it is with a bit of plastic cleaner on it. I've got a couple of other products I'm going to throw on this that will rejuvenate it a little bit more, but by and large I'm pretty happy with that. So this handlebar is kind of scuffed up on the end pretty badly all the way around. So there's a scar there and one here. So I've got a couple of extras here. This one is all kind of bare at the end as well, and it's going to be no good. This one does have a little bit of a scuff on it, but it's still better than this one. So I'm going to swap these guys out. And first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this rag out and then heat up the bolt in there, because usually there's Loctite in there, and it's just a whole lot easier to get them out if they're heated up. And then I'll put it back with the cloth in the jaws, and we'll change it out. Definitely needed heat, so I'm glad about that. It usually these things have got like a red Loctite in them, so, or some sort of Loctite. I'm not sure what this one's going to have in it, but I'm about to find out. Yep, red Loctite. So yeah, so my advice is, if you're going to take these things apart, make sure you heat these things up, because if they're really in there good and you don't start to melt some of that Loctite, it's pretty easy to strip the heads out of these things. So use a bit of heat. Right, more stripping. I'm cleaning these infill panels. Stuff seems to be peeling off pretty easily, so that's good. This is the one that's been already peeled, so it just needs some plastic revitalization spray, which I will show you right now. You've seen it before. Show you again. This stuff. Clean Flow Rubber Care. This stuff brings old faded plastics back to life like nothing else. This can's almost empty though, I think. Oh, it's empty. Need a new one. See, I have to keep lots of this stuff on hand. Spray it, let that stuff soak in, and then once it's soaked in, you spray it again. It comes up like new. So I'm just basically assembling a set of Hoover tubes here, taking all the best parts that I have, all of the spares, and I purchased these ones that hadn't been painted. I wasn't 100% convinced I was going to be able to get these ones as clean as I would like to get them, but I am going to strip these anyway, just to see how they can come along. But at the end of the day, I've got a bunch of these pieces just to make sure I can assemble two decent sets of tubes, which looks like I will be able to, so that's good. And then anything else that I end up with can go in the spares box, or be sold off to somebody who needs them for their restoration. Just cleaning, lots of cleaning. Everything is just filthy, so. Alright, so wheel painting day here in the paint booth. So I'll see if I can, I'm going to put my camera on the stand here, and I'll try to video as much of this as I can for you. This is, I'm not saying this is the perfect or the best way to paint wheels. It's just the way that I happen to do it. That seems to work for the most part. First thing I'm going to do is panel wipe, just to make sure there's no oil residues or anything left from handling this stuff. So they'll all get wiped down, and then they'll get tacked off before I start to paint. So the general approach I'm going to take is I'm going to paint the centers first, then do the spokes, and then do the inside of the rim. And then once both sides are done there, because that way I can use my hand on here to move the wheel around, and then at the end I'll do the center of the wheel. So probably going to be 2 coats anyway of red and 1 or 2 coats of clear on there. So the other thing that I typically do, just especially when you get to the second coat of red or the second coat of clear, when it's harder to see where you've already painted, just using the
the valve hull as a reference point so I know where I started and I don't end up putting too much paint on there. All right, so this is what it looks like after 2 base coats. Not quite dry enough yet for the clear coat to go on. You can still see it's a little bit kind of wet looking, so just gonna wait a little bit longer for all this to flash off. All right, gonna get ready now and do the clear coat. I turn up the pressure a little bit for the clear coat. I think I'm about 2.5 bar for the clear. Okay, second coat of clear is on, and she looks really good. The fucking fly landed on my clear coat, so key there is leave it. Just leave it. Because if I try to start picking that guy out right now, it's just going to end in tears, so I'll wait for it to dry, and then what are the chances? There we go. Happy, happy, happy. That fly is, that's a fly in the ointment right there. Right, the wheels are back home. Looking really nice. I'm really pleased with the color red that I chose for these. I didn't, as I said before, I didn't really have a reference point from an original body panel for this bike, so I just kind of went from some photographs which I've seen, and and even from photos, it's really hard to know whether you've got the right color depending on who took the photographs and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with the color, so that's good. They look a little more orange in the video, to be honest, than they are. So they're a little bit darker in real life than you actually see in this video. I think, as often happens with the cameras and the iPhones and whatnot, the colors tend to change a little bit as you're filming it. But take my word for it, it is not orange. It's quite a nice shade of red. The overall quality of my paint job, rear wheel, I'll give myself a 9 out of 10. Front wheel, 7.5. There's a spot here, which it's just a bit orange peely. I didn't get quite as much clear coat there as I would have liked, but that's fine. It'll be okay. And that will be that for today. Got all kinds of stuff cleaned up. Not too much left to clean, really. I've got axles left to clean, which will take me not too long at all. There's a whole pile of stuff in here that has to be still disassembled, cleaned, and repainted. All the kind of the stuff that has to be redone in black. Wiring harness still needs to be cleaned up, and of course the carburetors and the forks still need to be done. And I've still not gotten around to doing the valve clearances yet. I've just been doing other things. I was sick for a week, and last thing I needed to be doing is valve clearance adjustments when I had a head full of sinus congestion and all the rest of it, and you can't concentrate. That just wasn't the time to do it. So that is going to wrap it up for this video. And in the next video, I think we'll finally get around to doing the valve clearance adjustments on this bike, and then probably start getting the frame put back on it. And yeah, it's gonna be moving pretty quick from here on, I think. Although, having said that, I haven't even touched the bodywork yet, aside from stripping the tank, so there's still lots of work to go there. Anyway, until next time, thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again.